All right, welcome everybody to, I guess, this live stream. It's not a live stream, but a pre-recorded video. I had this idea in my brain and I just got off an instructor meeting call and we're talking about feedback and the culture of the event. And I'd recently done a podcast as well with Lane, and that is on the wherecanwedance.com podcast. And I will link that in the comments of this post. It's going to be shared in different areas here. And especially with, I guess, the current climate that we have in our dancing, consent is becoming more and more of a thing. And this feedback can go to so many different levels. And one of the points that came up during the call is, when is feedback okay? Is it never okay to give feedback? When is unsolicited feedback okay? When is it not okay? So I wanted to share some thoughts on my ideas, and I'm definitely open to other people's experiences or what they have done in other communities. This is not specific to just Kids. I know some people know me as Mr. Neil Kids, but this is for all partner dances that involve touching another human being. This is brought to you by wherecanwedance.com. We have a vision of putting all your dance events in one freaking place. And that's been a lot of work in itself. But yeah, let's get crack-a-lacking here. So here at the top, I have a question mark. Is unsolicited feedback never okay? And I feel like the reason why this question exists is because there have been multiple stories or multiple accounts where I've heard and people have shared, and like when I'm listening, other people share their stories of, hey, this is not feeling comfortable. Should I say something? Should I not say something? What's going on? And if you do have the courage to speak up, is there a skill level gap? Is this a teacher that is too rough? Is the person going to take it as an ego? Do you risk your reputation of future dances, etc., etc.? And yeah, sometimes we get into this situation where feedback, I feel like there's some situations where feedback is always okay. Sometimes you need to ask first. And then I guess if we were to get fancy here, will my icons work with me? Yes. And so, yeah, we find ourselves between these three categories here. Always okay, ask first, never okay. Yeah. And with so many stories coming up in here, I feel like we should take a closer look at what type of feedback are we talking about, right? And there could be other levels of feedback here, but for right now, I just wanted to highlight the point of there is comfort feedback. Are you in pain? Yeah. Is this not an enjoyable experience for you? Yeah. And I'm willing to continue the dance if X things can happen. And then there's also technique feedback. And I feel like in this conversation at the bottom here, you also see the place is also important, right? And is it during a class? Is it during a practica? Is it during a social? Is it during a practice session? Because I feel like that also plays into the place of where this feedback is being given. And this is why I really love practicas, because I feel like it does just open up the door a lot more for feedback. I feel like, unfortunately, this unsolicited feedback is probably more targeted towards technique feedback, right? Yeah, if you're at a class or a social and I want to highlight a point here. We'll just use this emoji here. Classes and socials are probably the places where most of us spend our time dancing, right? We're either taking classes or dancing at a social. And I feel like in both of these situations, feedback was probably not on the table. During a class, feedback depends on the lesson planning that's being given in the class, and is talking to your partner considered an interruption? of what's going on. And yeah, it could be a little bit more dicey. So that could be a thing. And then during a social, sometimes you get technique feedback of, oh, it's supposed to be like this and it's supposed to be like that. But I feel like there have been situations where either leads are trying to teach on the dance floor. Yeah. And maybe that's a situation where it's never okay to teach on the dance floor and give that technique feedback. But if we focus so much on the technique feedback and, hey, don't teach on the dance floor, it sounds like what's happening here is that people are also conflating that with comfort feedback. Is also never okay to give. And yeah, I feel like when we don't give comfort feedback, we run the risk of people suffering in silence. If a grip is too forceful, is it too intimate? Do you have a body ability or injury that you are trying to be mindful of? Is the dance too energetic? Is it too complex? There are different things that could be unique to you in the dance. So I would like to propose some ideas here. And yeah, this isn't scripted, so I'm just kind of like ripping off the top of my head, but I didn't want to complicate it. And I just wanted to get this piece of content out and just have it out there for people to consider. So yeah, I feel, is there ever a situation where feedback is never okay? And I would like to cancel that. I feel like feedback should always be there. And I feel like if we're not giving feedback in real time, like, of course, there could be better places. Or I also noticed here that I included during, but it could also be after the fact if giving feedback could potentially interrupt the flow of the class or something of that nature. Or do you feel like the person is open to it? Or maybe you don't want to, if there's a skill level or like a social credibility situation, maybe you talk to the instructor first and then the instructor talks to the student. But I feel like there should be a pathway of feedback ideally. And so I feel, let's start with comfort feedback. I feel that comfort feedback is always okay. Yeah, you can always say, hey, regardless of your skill level, regardless of this is a teacher-student dance or anything of that nature, I feel like it should always be a safe place. And this goes into the culture and the code of conduct that the places are creating at social dance classes, at festivals, at weekenders. It might be a little bit harder, even if you're organizing a social. Comfort feedback, always okay. Is this hurting me? Are you in pain? I feel like you should be able to communicate that and frame it as a request. Hey, can we try something a little different? Or can we try something that is softer? And then if this person does not agree to those terms of like your request, then you can end the dance. But at least there should be an attempt of conversation. I recently shared an image recently on accepting and declining dancers, and some of it could be because of what's going on here. I'll delete this here in a second, but yeah, you hear a lot now, and this has been something over the years, like, I don't owe anyone a dance. You can decline at anyone for any dance. That's completely fine. But I think it's also important to realize that, like, on the flip side of that, like, what happens if somebody ends a dance with you and they don't explain the reason why? And I also shared a blog that also had reasons that there are plenty of reasons that somebody could decline a dance that don't have anything to do with the person that is asking for a dance. But if it is about the person, it could be because, like, hey, it's too forceful, or this person likes to dance too intimate, or it's too energetic or too complex. And so I feel like potentially here, if we open up the door of making requests and creating the kind of dances that we would like to have with specific people, maybe we have more dances here versus this, no, I don't want to dance, and it is because of you, but you never made a request of what you would want to prefer. Hey, I'm down to dance with you, but no lifts or no tricks or no complex, or can we have a oops, I'm creating a line here. Can we have a soft dance? I feel like if that person knows about it ahead of time, then hey, of course, I want to dance with you, and this is the type of space that we are co-creating in the moment. And I feel like it's super important here that we don't have people suffering in silence out of fear that, hey, this is unsolicited feedback and it's not okay. With technique feedback, I would say, ask first. Is there something that's not, is there a particular technique on, hey, like your grids, when you get me on that one space, it's tough. And so if we're talking about technique feedback, when we are in class, probably not the best place, but like you can frame the direction towards an instructor. If we're talking about during a practica, I feel like technique feedback is definitely okay, but we'll definitely want to still ask first. But I feel like practicas have the probability of feedback more highlighted than any other space, because hey, this is not a social, it's not a class, and you get to, hey, can we have a dance that's focusing strictly on spins or turns or foot pushes or something of that nature? So it's more likely for you to request that. Technique feedback at a social, yes, that's probably where like you could potentially ask first depending on your situation. So during a social, comfort feedback, definitely okay. Technique feedback, you could ask and see if they're open to it or not. Of course, during a practice session, 100% there should be feedback for that for sure. And yeah, if we go across these 4 spaces for comfort feedback, so I'm all over the place here, but I wanted to create something even if it's not perfect. So comfort feedback during a class, always okay. You can request that, hey, this is still too rough, or be careful of an injury, etc., etc. Use your words, totally okay. During a practica, 100%. During a social, 100%. During a practice session, 100%. Like across the board feedback, depending on the place, always okay. Let's lock this so it doesn't move around. And yeah, and so another cool thing in the class that I did, in the podcast that I did with Lane, is that feedback does not always have to be negative. In these situations, it can also be positive. So during a class, like you can give somebody a feedback of, hey, I like the way that felt. This felt really good. Or the technique feedback. I feel like that can always be okay. Maybe you can give feedback of, is it okay to check in before you give somebody a compliment? Potentially, but I feel like those situations will always kind of be okay. And take positive feedback during a practica, during a social, or during a practice session, definitely okay. One thing that Lane also pointed out in the class is using we statements instead of you statements. So it makes it more, hey, we're working together to create these situations. So highlight on we. And is there anything else I want to say here? Yeah, I feel like where my brain is just really being able to separate comfort feedback from technique feedback. You can check in first before giving it, depending on the skill level, and see if the person is open to that feedback. Maybe technique feedback will probably have the highest probability at a practica. During class, hit or miss, depending on the instructor. Technique feedback, definitely still want to ask first. And during a practice session, I feel like if you are practicing with somebody, it's probably hopefully already embedded that you guys are going to be giving each feedback. And comfort feedback should be a-okay during any place. But yeah, I hope this helps shed some light in this conversation that we're having. And I'm definitely open to other ideas, other frameworks here. There's another situation or another piece of content that I'm talking about with communication channels. And there's a communication channel that is between the leader and the follower students. And I feel like if we can work on starting to create a culture where we can give peer-to-peer feedback, which happens at a practica, which is why I put a little star on it. I feel like this could be training grounds for us to learn how to give feedback. So open to ideas and other practices that you guys have experienced, but I just wanted to do this video here and show this because I feel like it should be helpful to organizers. Hopefully it's helpful to artists of how you can frame your classes and like, how do you want to approach feedback between the students during your class. And then, yeah, I know sometimes with the classes, you don't want the students giving each other feedback because they could be giving incorrect technique. But again, we don't want to focus so much on the technique feedback that we forget about comfort feedback and having it be okay and not like accusatory or not rude or anything of that nature as far as feedback is concerned. And then also for dancers, like when do you speak up, when do you not speak up? I feel like we should start speaking up a lot more to create the dances that you want to have and not just suffer through a dance. I feel like we need less of that. So thanks so much for tuning in and listening, and I'm open to see what comes up in the comments. Peace.